This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO classified. UFO classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Happy Fantopia Friday, my friends. I'm Erica Lukes. Always excited to start Friday nights off on a good note, to see my friends in chat getting in there asking great questions. I appreciate all of you very much. I get letters, messages from people all over the world who either see me on TV or listen to the show and are appreciative, and that means a lot to me to hear your feedback. As all of you who regularly listen know, I am here because I believe that it is critical we get good information, and in a field of ego and delusion, that is a very difficult thing to do. I have had the pleasure this week of receiving a new archive, and my new archive is over 1,000 magazines about UFOs, about science fiction that span from the 1930s on. I acquired that collection from Jim Klotz, and I have now a huge archive in a commercial space. This is a place where people can come and learn about the history. They can read the literature and educate themselves. It has been a true joy for me to expose people who honestly had no interest in this subject, to expose them to all of this and to see the wonder and joy. And I am very proud to receive archives and to carry the work forward of people who have made tremendous sacrifices in their life. And we have to, it is absolutely critical that we preserve history, we carry it forward, and we learn from mistakes or from accomplishments that we have seen by great people in the field. So I hope if you're in Utah, you can stop by. I want to give a shout out to my friend and mentor, Barry Greenwood. He has been very beneficial, very helpful to me in this whole process. And also Jen Aldrich, who has Project 1947. You can go check out his website or Greenwood Archives. Both of them are very wonderful people. Also Fran Ridge with Madar. I will, if you can, go back and listen to my archives. They've been on the show before. So very, very awesome. Tonight is going to be an interesting night. And I know that it is right now we have to work through some things, and people have a lot of questions when it comes to an organization named Mufon. Mufon has received a lot of flack as of late because of the openly racist comments we have seen and little or lack of a productive response from headquarters. We're going to talk a little bit about that with my guest tonight, who is the International Director of Investigations, Steve Hudgeons. He will answer those questions. He has graciously agreed to be on the show, even though he knows there will be some hard questions asked tonight. Steve Hudgeons is from Fort Worth and graduated in '68 at Diamond Hills. Jarvis joined the U.S. Navy in '69 and had 4.5 years of honorable service and 3.5 years of honorable service in the U.S. Navy Reserve. Steve joined MUFON ranks in 1991 and has conducted investigations on UFOs for the past 20 years. During that time, he's investigated over 200 cases for MUFON. In '95, Steve was appointed Texas Chief Investigator and was part of the original STAR team conducting investigations in Texas. In 2008, he led a group of field investigators to Stephenville, Dublin, Texas to investigate what we all know, the Stephenville Lights case. That was a great case. In 2009, he became the Mufon State Director of Texas, which he was until 2012. He has 20 years of community service with volunteer organizations such as Little League Neighborhood Council, community policing with the Fort Worth Police Department, and much more. You can read more about him at mufon.com under functional directors. Steve, welcome to the show. It's been a while since we've been on a show together.
Yes, thanks for having me. And yes, it has been a while, but who's counting?
So what's been going on in your world? I know I talked to you briefly, and you had resigned from Mufon, but now you're in a different title. So can you explain what has changed?
I was the director of investigations for a number of years, and I had one of those moments where you have a problem with someone, and it just you just want to just throw your hands up and say, "Man, why am I doing this?" So I resigned for 24 hours, and that didn't last long. I had to come back, or I was asked to come back, and it was decided that the director of investigations job was actually pretty intense, so they split it in two. And I took over this position called the DFO of Mufon, which is Director of Field Operations. And that worked out pretty good. Then the position for the International Director of Investigations became available. And I asked if I could do that, and there I am. So now I'm in control of the whole world.
King of the world.
Yes, I'm in control of the whole world. And I have to tell you, it is a different set of circumstances when you're dealing with other people of other countries. I mean, they have, it's like, let's just say the people in Texas and compared to the people in, just say, New York State, for instance. Different, it's like two different cultures. But when you're in the international, it's every country is a different culture, and they just have a different way of doing things. And what I have to do is just become, I guess, used to what they do or whatever. But it's coming along okay.
So how do you feel, since you're having interactions with people from all over the world, how do you feel that America fares with regard to UFOs and education? I've always felt, when I look at other countries, specifically with my trip to Norway, to Hudgeons, that perhaps other countries are a bit, they can deal with this. They're not caught up in all of this political posturing and ego and the dysfunction of the UFO community that we've created in America.
That's a good question. And people are people, and they're going to always be people. And you're going to have some thinking this way, and you're going to have some thinking that way. And especially in ufology, it's everyone has the smoking gun. And of course, everyone can't have the smoking gun because no one has the smoking gun, in my opinion. And we're always looking for it. And so there's always going to be a difference of opinion. But I don't really look at it that way. A long time ago, when I was back in Little League Baseball, I began to do statistics and things of that nature. And I noticed right away that if you apply a number to basically every action or reaction, you can tell more about what's going on. And after one season of baseball, the next year after I applied these numbers, we won the championship because of the method that I was using. But I put this method to use, 3 years ago in the Director of Investigations thing. And what I did was we have 9 dispositions that are really condensed down to 5. So what really started it, Jan asked me one time to do an assessment on 2 different field investigators, 2 different state directors. And he wanted to know how they were completing out their cases and how they were completing them, what disposition they were giving them. And I did that. And I looked at one, and I looked at another when I went back a couple of years on them. And let's just say this one state director had a lot of cases that he finalized out as information only. And whereas this other state director finalized his cases out mostly on unknowns. And it kind of offset each other. The numbers were pretty close. So I started looking at that, and I gave him my report to him. And I got to thinking about that, and I started thinking about it. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, which one of these guys is closer to the correct disposition? Were all those cases really information only, and were all these cases really unknown? So I did not a pooling, but anyway, I downloaded, well, I didn't really download them, but I looked up all of the cases in the CMS. There's like, I don't know, 69,000 cases. It's just a rough number. And I put that total down. And then I put down a total of, and I only worked with completed cases. I put down how many were unknowns, how many were IFOs, how many were hoaxes, and on down the line like that. And I gave each one of them a percentage. And I started looking at this percentage, and I did a check in the beginning stages. I did a check every 6 months. And I also put in each state in a section. And then when I did that, I put each field investigator under that state. And I was keeping up with everybody on how they were doing. And the numbers were off the wall. I mean, everybody was just way out there. And some were pretty close to what I was using. I was using a base number on the averages of the CMS itself. And to my amazement, they very rarely ever changed by a percentage point one way or the other, even after a 6 months or a 1 year period. So the baseline I was using was pretty good. And I said, well, nobody's ever perfect on anything. So I allowed a 5 percentage points up and below my baseline. And if they were within 10 percentage points, I would give them a 1 point score. And then that worked out pretty good, so I started adding in how many times they used Form 30, and I gave that a percentage. And anyway, I ended up with a baseline number, and I used that for a long time. And I just sent my last report into Jan, and I got to thinking about that, and we started applying that to the Field Investigator of the Year award. And in the past, we would ask for nominations from the state director, and we only got, I don't know, there's 50 state directors, and we only got like about 10 people were nominated, that thing of that nature. But with this scoring system, it really stepped up the program. We could really see who is really doing their cases right, and they're the ones that are really more worthy of the state director or the Field Investigator of the Year award. And that's how we were doing it. Then the senior staff would get together and they'd talk things over, and then Jan would eventually decide on who gets the award. So it worked out pretty good, and it still works out pretty good. Now, before you ask me a question,
you could tell I was getting ready.
Yes, all the oxygen left the room. No, really. Now, so when I got into the international side of it, so I told you that to tell you this. I got into the international side of it, and I started applying the same thing. Of course, there's not that many. They only have like 12,000 cases total. So I started noticing that there wasn't that much difference in the way they were doing their dispositions compared to the way the United States is doing their dispositions. So there's not that really much of a difference in what's going on in ufology. I mean, these guys are doing their thing, and that's just the way there is. Okay, now what's your question?
So when you say that you met with senior staff
Yes.
management, so who is in that group?
Let's see. Now at the moment, it's Jan, it's myself, Chase Klesky, because she's DOI now, Roger Marsh, Ryan Stacy, the new director of training. Let's see who else. Dave McDonald, and that's about it. And not everybody always shows up, and we have a weekly meeting. It's on Thursday.
I bet those are interesting. For sure.
They can be.
So I want to ask you, when, and obviously this is a non-for-profit, I mean, this is a volunteer organization. What sort of background checks do you do on people, especially people who are in leadership positions, and specifically when people are claiming to be involved with different branches of the military, do you investigate that to verify what they're saying is actually accurate?
I personally don't. I know that headquarters does a background check, a criminal background check on field investigators that want to be, people who want to be a field investigator, and do a background check just to ensure that we don't have any pedophiles running out or rapists running out or, that kind of thing into people's houses or whatever you want to call it. And as far as doing a check on, like say there, hey, have you been in the military? Good. Show me your DD-14. I don't know if anybody's ever done that. I'm not aware of that. I mean, I have mine.
Right. Yeah. But I always think that that's good when you have leadership representing an organization. And obviously we know in this field people like to misrepresent their accomplishments or what they do. And so I would think that would behoove Mufon to probably look into people's backgrounds a little bit more. Just a thought.
Well, I'm not objective to that. I mean, if somebody wants to see my background, I've got it right here and fax it to them. It's not a big deal to me. It's, I suppose if that became a question, it would be, someone would say, well, I'm not sending that. You don't need, well, okay, well, that's a red flag for me. but as far as I know, Mufon doesn't do that. Because there's not a need for it. I mean, I can't see a need for that because no one that I know, basically in management positions, is boasting about something of that nature.
Yeah, that would be good. I know that, it is interesting to see in the UFO field how people like to misrepresent their bios and claim that they were involved in the military or different things. And that is, that's stolen valor. That is, it's not exactly the best thing. And I always wonder why people feel the need to misrepresent themselves at all, unless it's just to get your ego kicks for the day.
Well, that's very possible. I know a lot of people that have egos. I suppose I have one, but I keep it low key.
Oh dear. Well, at least you're honest about that one, Steve.
I'm sorry, but people do not interchange with me very well. And it's because when Jan asked me about this one day, he says, how come you never smile? And I said, Jan, I am smiling. And he said, oh, well, how come you never grin? I said, well, I don't want to. How's that? I said, I have a certain persona that I want to project. And it's one of those where when I'm standing, this is kind of weird. I'm going to cover this, but there was one time I was in a meeting or something or other, and I was standing there, had my arms crossed. And we're standing there talking, and this one guy, he looked at me, he says, is there something that I'm saying here that you don't like? And I said, no. Well, why are your arms crossed? And I said, well, I straightened my arms out, and I said, do you see these big, large muscles here on my arms? And I said, I cross my arms because when they hang, the blood circulation goes out, and I have to cross my arms to get the blood, otherwise I'll pass out. That's why my arms are crossed. And it's true. I've been in construction all my life, and I'm getting of age, and this stuff's starting to catch up with me. So what can I say?
Yep. Well, that's a good thing. And I will. People don't have the warm and fuzzy feelings about Steve Hudgeons.
No, they don't, and it's pretty good because my phone doesn't ring that often, and that's a good one for me. It's fine with me, and I am straight to the point. I learned a long time ago that when you converse with someone or email with someone, if you beat around the bush long enough and try to make it nice and all this kind of thing, people don't know exactly what you're talking about. So I like to be straight to the point without any all this mumbo jumbo. That way there's no mistake. Okay, well, yeah, we know we're side Steve's on. We know what he's talking about. But I don't hate people. I am I'm very introverted, and I have OCD. So I'm very quiet in the corner, looking for everything that's straight and level. I'm sorry, but I interact when I'm interacted with. I mean, that's just the way it is. And when I'm walking down the hall, I don't pay attention to anybody. I'm just walk down the hall like I'm own the place. I mean, what can I say?
Well, and I think, I mean, you bring up a good point. People have different personalities, and some people are better at crunching numbers. Some people are better at communicating with the public and holding specific roles. That's one, and I'll talk about this when we get back to after break. But I mean, you look at some of the statements that Harzan has made when there's a crisis with Mufon, and that's a prime example of him being a leader because he's generating revenue, but perhaps maybe not in the media being that adept with handling a crisis.
No comment.
Come on, give me something.
Well, Jan is a great leader. I like Jan. I like him a lot, and he's out for the best interests of Mufon. And he doesn't make rash decisions. He thinks about his decisions and what he's going to do. And sometimes it takes a while to do that. When I say a while, I mean like over 24 hours. But he consults with everyone around him for most part. And then a conclusion is made, and then he comes out with whatever his statement is.
Well, again, that might need to be reworked a little bit, and specifically with the John Bentry scandal and the responses that we saw both Jan make, where he was trying to deflect attention away from the taking responsibility for it and pushing it back on people who were asking very valid questions, and then Roger Marsh's subsequent responses that have, of course, been deleted from the record. But I mean, there is such thing in PR, and any good non-for-profit or any corporation understands the importance of crisis media management. And I think that's something that it obviously could be worked on a bit within Mufon.
I suppose that's true.
I would suppose so too. But that's about all I'm saying on that one. But there's a lot to talk about. And again, I appreciate you coming on here when I will ask some of these questions, and it's good for people to hear this. So I appreciate that. I'm here. This is UFO Classified. This is Erica Lukes, and I'm with Steve Hudgeons, who has been with MUFON for quite some time. I have known Steve, for 5-6 years. He's the International Director of Investigations and has assumed new and exciting positions where he is actually dealing with people in other countries. And Steve, I've got to say, I would love to have that opportunity. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get back from break. Stick around. The best is yet to come.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified
with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Here's what happened on the last episode of Three Guys, No Ties.
At least we got rid of one of Satan's daughters over here.
But we still keep talking about her.
First of all, we have not gotten rid of her.
Well, this is true. Okay.
Well, no, and the cool thing is that, according to Drudge, it's looking like she might be the one that's going to run again in 2020.
I heard that, but do you think that she would actually win next time?
No, that's why I'm so happy about it.
Yeah.
How much money can she spend next time?
Good afternoon, everyone. This is your captain. I'd like to welcome you on Jackpot Airlines Flight 1610, service to Lost Wages.
They say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Well, apparently, they need a reality check done Vegas style.
Vegas, 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 Vegas.
Tune in Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, for Reality Check, hosted by Jessica Johns, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Biggest star in the world, bigger than Britney and Christina put together.
If it's happening on the Vegas Strip, you'll know about it here first.
You are a dirty little fun haver.
Join Jessica Johns as she explores and goes behind the scenes of what's hot and what's not. From the best entertainment Vegas has to offer to national celebrity gossip.
That's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Jessica has her finger on the heartbeat of the city, and she's waiting to share it with you. Reality Check, hosted by Jessica Johns. Wednesday, 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern. She does Vegas right.
Yeah, baby.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug's adoption story started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
One of the planet's most powerful antioxidant products is here for you to enjoy. Chaga Mushroom Tea. This tea has been used as a potent natural health solution for thousands of years. In fact, the Chinese call it King of the Herbs. The health value alone is worth a look, as Chaga Mushroom Tea packs a punch with pure vitality and smooth energy. It's 100% wildcrafted, safe, and effective. Get it now at arcticchaga.com. That's ARCTICCHAGA.com, or call 916-969-2678. That's 916-969-2678. Chaga Mushroom Tea. Chaga Mushroom Tea. Order your supply today.
It's great. I think it's great. It's great.
The all-new KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Great. Please make a note of it. It's great.
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back and happy Fantopia Friday. I'm Erica Lukes, always happy to be here. Of course, I have to give a shout out to all of my friends, Susan, Liv, Northern UFOs, Gabe, everybody in chat who is here every week and supports the show and helps me get the word out. I really appreciate that because, as most of you know, I actually own a business and additionally spend at least 30 hours a week researching, collecting archival material, and doing much, much more. So I appreciate your help. I am here tonight with the International Director of Investigations from Mufon, Steve Hudgeons. Steve is living in Texas. He's been there his whole life. He was in the U.S. Navy and was working on and did a lot of stuff with the Stephenville Lights case. That's a pretty freaking amazing case. And Steve, I want to change gears now and then have you talk a little bit about the Stevensville case.
Well, okay. I don't have Alzheimer's yet, so I can remember some of it.
Well, that's comforting.
But we were here in Texas in about 2008, if I believe is correct. And we're minding our own business like we always do. And we were getting like 2.5, 3 cases a month. And that was surprising, too, when I was doing my exercise of looking to get things up and doing things. But then all of a sudden, we got a report or an inquiry. I think it was from headquarters. It had been so long. They wanted to know if we knew about this case in Stephenville, that it was announced on the newscasting thing. It was kind of going, the AP had a news thing on it. And no, we don't know anything about that. Then we started getting calls on it. And Angela Joyner was a reporter in Stephenville, and she started calling us and asking us about this and that, because all of a sudden they were getting just phone call after phone call after phone call. And so I called Angela and was talking to her about it. And she said, man, I'm getting, my phone's ringing off the wall here. We need to do something about that. And we never had been confronted with anything of this nature, you know, that great of a mass. So I said, I tell you what, I said, why don't you put a an article in your newspaper about it, and we'll establish a place, and we'll have like a town hall meeting or something, and people that have actually had a report, and then come in, and I'll bring a team of investigators down there, and we'll just do a mass investigation. Bring these people in. So I tried to get it to say, well, maybe a lunchroom at the school, maybe of that nature, and she called me back, and she said, well, the school wants about $150 for cleanup, and I can understand that, but we didn't have that money. I didn't want to spend that kind of money, and we were looking for another place. And then in the middle of all of this, the people in Dublin, there's an auxiliary there. They said, hey, you can have it here at our facility, and I think they have 400 capacity people, and we'll serve Dublin Dr. Pepper, and it's free. Okay, well, that's where we had it. So we went down there, got it all set up, and I mean to tell you, that place filled up with people that wanted to come in and talk, and it filled it up so quick, and people had to be turned away because it was filled up too high. And man, we're overwhelmed with this thing, and so we wanted to get it started, and I kind of started it off. So I walked up to the podium up there, and I really hadn't really paid attention. There's so many people in there, I couldn't really see what was going on. But when I got to that podium, I looked at that podium, and I describe it as a cactus. The top of that podium had so many microphones on it that man, look at this. Who put these microphones up here? Like 10 of them. And that's when I looked up. And when I looked up, there's ABC, NBC, CB, all of them are out there. Man, you talk about freaked out. Holy crap. And it was all of a sudden, this is a world event. Jesus. And so we kind of got through all of that. And then we said, okay, everybody that has a signing report to put in, just kind of move this way. And the whole thing got up and massed this way. We got about, 350, 400 reports or something that day. And these reports went back for years. I mean, this wasn't something that's just all of a sudden happened. There's been things going on down there for years. And anyway, we investigated it, and the state director at that time has all of those reports. I don't have any of them. And I kind of wished I'd have made copies of them, but I don't have any of them. The state director has them. And I don't know if anybody's ever asked him for them or not, but I doubt if he's going to turn them in. But anyway.
And who was that? Who was that?
Well, you can look it up. I don't really want to say his name.
Okay.
I can tell you later. But let's see. Oh, yes. After we started getting into this and really getting down into the details of this case, the majority of the sightings were like orange orbs, that type of a thing.
Oh, no, tell me what you think about orange orbs.
Well, let's see. Let me just stick with this right here.
Oh, right. Okay.
And different sizes, different places, different areas, and different ways that they act and react. And during our investigation, we found out several things. Number one, the Dublin and Stephen area is surrounded by military operating zones. So that means all of the jets in half of Texas fly over there to operate. And of course, they're going to do their little battle runs and all this kind of stuff. And when they drop flares, it's just part of the program. And these flares are orange. So I'm thinking personally that most of the stuff they're seeing down there is orange flares. And that's with the exception of the flying Walmart. Now, people always say, what? The flying Walmart.
It sounds frightening.
Yes, it can. It could have been, I suppose. There were 5 Stephenville police officers on duty one night, scattered out in different. They were not together. They were scattered out in different areas around Stephenville, and they saw this object that they described as half a mile wide and a mile long. So we just dubbed it the Flying Walmart. So this thing was just kind of going silently over downtown Stephenville and just kind of did a 90-degree turn. You know, it rotated about 90 degrees and just kind of calmly took on off. And so, I've never seen that at the Air Force Base or anything of that nature. So, what's that? So you have, I always have two questions about that. Number one, I have one question. Number one, if I was a race of beings superior to the people on Earth, and I have a ship that large, let's just call it a mothership for purposes of description. Why would I want to take a chance to fly this thing slowly between a bunch of jets flown by apes that could possibly shoot and disable this vehicle? Why would anyone want to do that? So I kind of
because they can.
Well, why take a chance? So I kind of think it's our own equipment. That's just the way I look at it. I think that big ship was our equipment, and they knew that the jets weren't going to shoot it down. They knew. Number one, they probably couldn't keep up with it. Number two, the equipment on the ship could probably ward off any kind of an attack, and even if it did have a small destructive purpose or whatever, they didn't have too far to go to get it fixed. So I'm thinking it's our own equipment. And then when you factor in that we're $20 trillion in debt, where'd that money go? I don't know. So I think it's our own
space program.
Well, I think that has a lot to do with it. Yes. You're taking all my speed out, but anyway.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But no, that's okay. Yes, I think it's our own equipment for the most part, because I'm really of the opinion that if there's an extraterrestrial race out there a million years ahead of us, sure, they can come in and check us out and look us over, but they're going to be invisible. I mean, they're not going to take a chance on us even seeing them or doing any harm to them, because, I always say, people are always asking me, Steve, why don't the aliens come down here and help us? And I'm going, okay, when was the last time you went to the zoo? And they go, well, I went to the zoo last year. I said, did you go over to the monkey cage and toss your keys to your SUV over the cage so the monkeys can sort of save themselves? Well, no, because the monkey can't drive my vehicle. I said, there you are.
Well, that's a good way to put it.
And then there's another one I like to use. You're walking in the park. You get over there and you see a thriving ant bed. You get down there and start talking to these ants, trying to communicate with them so you can teach them how to farm so they don't have to go out and kill everything and eat it. What are they going to do? They're going to try to eat you. So there's another one. That's why the aliens don't come down and help us.
Well, and I have to ask you, I mean, I know that Mufon is kind of vested in the extraterrestrial hypothesis that I don't necessarily think the more I look into this, that's maybe what we're dealing with. I mean, could there be something else or a combination of things? I
haven't seen that hypothesis. It's not in our rule books.
Well, everything that MUFON supports is extraterrestrial.
It's the possibility of extraterrestrial.
I will. Yep. Well, and I will go back. It seems that Jan has had a few statements as of late where he very clearly says that it's extraterrestrial technology.
Possibility of. No one has any. We don't have any evidence of anything being extraterrestrial. There's a lot of speculation and opinion, but I haven't ever seen anything that I would say, "Yep, that's extraterrestrial, all right." And I make people mad.
Well, you do have a good way of that.
Well, I'm sorry.
No,
there's a photo right now posted on your webpage. I saw it a minute ago. It's like a UFO, a bunch of cars stopped on a road, brake lights all over the place, and a UFO to the left. Someone showed that to me the other day, and I looked at it, and I analyzed it my little self the way I always do. And first thing I did was I drew a straight line through that saucer object, and it's tilted. And then I noticed that underneath it, it's pixelated underneath from halfway between the saucer and the ground. So that means it's been altered. And another thing that I look at when I see a photo, it says, "Why are you showing only one photo?" I mean, if I saw an extraterrestrial, I said my little iPhone is capable of taking 1,000 photos a second, and I only see one photo. I'm sorry, it's a fake photo. Number one, UFOs, by all purposes, are gravitational. They don't use the air like an airplane does in order to maneuver. It's all magnetic. And the magnetic fields on the Earth, if you throw a magnet, they're going to be straight and level. So any kind of a extraterrestrial vehicle that runs off of magnetics is going to be level to the ground. It's not going to be crooked or tilted or like a frisbee flying through the air. It's not going to do that. So that's a dead giveaway for me.
Well, it is interesting.
That's just my way of doing things. I'm sorry.
Well, and I think that we spend way too much time, honestly, analyzing photos and tearing down each individual case. And that was, when I was when I was state director, you and I had quite a few conversations about this because I thought that it was really short-sighted to always look for that one golden nugget of a case when this is about analyzing the data. And I could never understand for the life of me after 50 years why Mufon never thought that maybe that should be done.
I believe they're putting a team together now that's going to analyze photos. But as far as I'm concerned, I can look at the photo and analyze it right away.
But what about the data, though?
Most of these things don't have EXIF data.
Not necessarily in the pictures, but when you're looking at analyzing the database as a whole to identify commonalities in specific, all of that was what I tried to do with Robert Spearing with Project Orange. And that was, I would say to Jan, why aren't we doing this? We seem to be looking invested for a Phoenix Lights case. And that was a great case, whether you want to argue it or not, or Stephenville or Rendlesham. But one case isn't going to prove or disprove this. It's doing what they've done over in Hessdalen.
It's because no one does it. Now, I'll tell you what I have done. I took all of the cases in Texas. I did this several months ago because I was looking for the quote-unquote trend, if there was one. And that's what I was looking for, some kind of a trend. So we could okay, when I know the UFOs are going to be over there tomorrow, so we're going to be there waiting on them. So I downloaded all of the cases in Texas. There were like 5,000 or 6,000 of them. And I sliced them all up. And I mean, to tell you, it took me a long time to do this, but I got it down to the hour, to the day of the week, to the county, to the city, what disposition it was. I did all of that crap. And I put it on a graph scale, if you want to call it like that. And the peak was along about dinner time in the daytime. It was along about between 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. That was the peak of activity. And then it went off the scale down to about 1 o'clock in the morning, and it picked back up again about 5 in the morning. And then it just kind of did that every day. It was just a different cycle. So I came to the conclusion that there's two factors in a UFO sighting. Number one, you have the object. Number two, you have the witness. So without one of them, you don't have the sighting. So the peak was when everybody's out having lunch. They're working and they go to and they get out and when they're going to bed at night, you don't see anything. So that rules everything out. The common factor in a sighting is the witness. If there's no witness, there's no case. So there's not a peak, not a trend. The only trend is when people like us get out and look. So that tells me the UFO activity is 24 hours a day.
And I would agree with that. I mean, what does MUFON do to promote field research? That was another thing that I thought MUFON could take a more proactive approach on. Instead of sitting around and looking at cases as they came in, you could identify areas where there were sightings that could be repeated decade after decade, and yet people were being lazy and classifying them as a Chinese lantern when clearly they were moving against the wind and yada yada, but people weren't getting out there to conduct field research. Why do you think that is, and what can MUFON do to make that change?
Well, the position for director of research is open.
Well, that would be good. I think and I'll just go out there and say this for myself. Once, for me, if I quit an organization, I won't go back, but I know other people feel differently, obviously.
You should come back. Just be quiet and come back.
Oh dear, yeah.
No, don't go ear me. No, seriously. You hear people talk about disclosure. Anytime I hear someone say, "Hey, we need disclosure," well, I got news for them. If you want disclosure, join Mufon, and I'm going to tell you why. Mufon right now has, I don't know, I haven't looked lately, but it's like, I don't know, 3,500, 4,000 people, something like that. And that's worldwide, right? Okay, take the ACLU, for instance. There's several million members. Take the NRA. There's several million members in that, too. And guess what? They have a voice in what's going on in the government. Now, just think if Mufon had several million members and they're voters, I guarantee you we would get something done. But no, everybody's too busy out there with their UFO ego. Oh, I'm better than you. Mufon is stupid. That I hear it all the time. I'm not joining them. Hey, guess what? You're stepping on your own foot.
I can understand that, and I think that there is a need for a UFO organization to represent and to bring a united voice and to pressure the powers that be to give information to the public. But I think, in my opinion, and I know I'm not alone in this, that MUFON needs to make some serious changes in the way they do things.
As in what?
Well, I think that MUFON has some very serious issues with, the inner circle, having people like Jay-Z Knight represent, them when she is a very clear racist, when you've got rants from John Venturi, when you've got all of these things. I mean, there appears to be, from some of the people who are involved in giving significant amounts of money or in the public making statements about white power and one world order and yada yada, that this isn't a scientific objective organization. This is about promoting the secret space program and the neo-Nazi agenda.
I've had people call me a racist, and anybody that calls me a racist is just purely ignorant, because my wife's last name is Hernandez. A lot of people don't know that. So when they call me a racist, they don't know what they're talking about.
And I think that would be good to clarify, because as well as I do, and somebody did post this in chat, that you had a post on your social media, the white pride doesn't mean hate. So
it doesn't.
So explain
it's just a statement.
that.
That's not racist. And anyway, I copied that from somebody else's website. Then when I saw people having a heart attack over it, I deleted it.
Yeah, that probably was a good choice.
The things that I post on Facebook are for stimulation of conversation. I put things on. I have me, I have dry humor, if you want to call it that. But I don't mind stirring the pot, because I like the activity back and forth, and some people just can't stand it. But anyway, it doesn't bother me to stimulate the conversation, because after a while, UFOs become kind of boring. But no, I'm not a racist, and I don't like people that are racist, because there's other things to do.
So what was your feeling when you heard about the John Venturi scandal?
Well, I didn't like it a bit, but I had no control over it. And John has, I don't know, I guess you could call it, well, it got his attention. I don't know what it all did to him, but it got his attention, and he's apologized for it. I mean, I don't know what people want him to do, commit suicide. I mean, he apologized. What more can you do?
Right. And we're, getting ready to go to break, but I think it is, with high level resignations, Robert Powell, James Clarkson, Hoffman, different things like that.
I can tell you all about them, but I'm not going to say it online. I'll tell you personally.
But I mean, I know that James Clarkson was concerned specifically about MUFON's alliance with Jay-Z Knight.
But I've heard this several times, and I've heard this communicated. Well, this person has a lot of control over MUFON, and I'm sitting there going, really? Where? Because I can guarantee you if, well, I have probably 50% of input in Mufon. Seriously. I mean, as far as decision making goes, I edit the state director's handbook. I edit the field investigator's manual. As far as the rules and regulations go, hey, here it is. I'm it. And I didn't get any kind of information or whatever from anybody else other than state directors and field investigators. Hey, man, what do you think about this? This rule here, what do you got? And I take a poll, and some like it, some don't. You go to the middle ground, and you change that little rule there, and things that come up that red flag here, well, that doesn't work. Okay, well, we changed that. But these people in this inner circle thing, they have no power over anything that I'm aware of. And I've got my foot in the door, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely, and that's something I think with the inner circle. These are questions that are good to air because people have expressed, the inner circle. How much control do these people have? And I would like to specifically know when we get back from break when Jay-Z Knight became involved with Mufon and why and who her contact person was or is in Mufon.
I don't know.
Okay. Very, very interesting. I knew this was going to be a good show.
I'm just glad it's not video.
Oh, seriously, that's there's a reason that we don't do video.
Well, yeah, Scott, I'm older than dirt and twice as ugly. I'd break the camera.
Well, yep. I'm not saying that you are, but anyway, oh, Lord have mercy. I'm telling you, I have...
After your spandex commercial
comment... yeah, the Speedo comment. That was a good one.
We're friends. I mean, I thought that was the funniest thing I ever heard in my life.
Oh, we might have to mention that. Absolutely. America Luke's here with Steve Hudgeons. We will be back. Stick around. The best is yet to come.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Well, welcome back to the second half of UFO Classified. You can find me at UFOclassified.com or on Facebook, Twitter, which I actually need to get my tweet on. I really am not a big Twitter fan, but I need to get over it. Feel free to message me. I want to just give a shout out to Northern UFOs, who has been taking my show and putting it out on YouTube so we can expose a new audience. I appreciate that. If all of you could take the time and share information about the show, I would appreciate it. It is really critical that we actually get information out there that is productive, and we weed through all of the ego-driven crap that we see in the field, especially in American ufology. I believe a lot of this is distraction, and there are places like Hesdalen, Norway, which I have done a considerable amount of work on. I went there. I realized very early on when I began researching this in a public setting that Hesdalen was a critical place, and I have done a lot in America to try to get that information out. So you can go to projecthesdalen.org to learn more about that. I am proud to be friends with Erling Strand, who is, in my opinion, one of the world's foremost researchers on the topic. I also want to say that next Friday I will be interviewing Dr. Eric Davis, and that will be one, again, for the memory books. You won't want to miss that. It is a rare opportunity to ask questions, to learn more about To the Stars Academy and his role in all of this. So don't miss next Friday. It will be a great show. I am here tonight with Steve Hudgeons, who is the International Director of Investigations for Mufon. And in the first hour of the show, we were talking a little bit about the John Ventry scandal, Jay-Z Knight, Stephenville, much, much more. And I want to say, Steve, first of all, welcome back. It's nice to be on the air again with you. We've done shows in the past. And just a little side note for the audience, when I was in MUFON, Steve was at that point in time host of MUFON Radio, and Steve had asked me to fill in a couple times. And one of those was the infamous Jaime Maussan interview.
Yes.
And I wish that was still available online. That's too bad that's not.
It's not available?
No, you can't find it anywhere.
I'll see if I can get it.
Yeah, that was a good interview. I did a lot of work on that one, and it really, in my opinion, represented both sides, the skeptics and the Maussan camp. But anyway, that was you who instigated that, and you gave me the opportunity to do that. So I thank you for that. And you obviously are well aware that MUFON has been kind of run through the ringer. That's nothing new. There
really?
Seems to be. Yeah, I know that. I'm so good, master of the obvious. But I with Jay-Z Knight, that's definitely an interesting association. And you were saying before we went to break that you didn't really know how she got involved or necessarily what her role was. She was just giving MUFON money.
Well, I don't know if she was giving MUFON any money. I hear rumors just like anybody else does, but I haven't really seen anybody give any money to anybody. I mean, I can't corroborate that. But I didn't know about this Jay-Z Knight thing until it came up under this problem they were having with this racist comments. So it was news to me.
And she did say in a drunken rant, apparently, F God's chosen people. I think they've earned enough cash to have paid their way out of the GD gas chambers by now. Mexicans breed like rabbits or poison. All gay men were once Catholic priests. I mean, those are the kind of things that Jay-Z Knight, who is in the quote-unquote inner circle, has said. So, when we look at racism and then we look at I believe that the way that this has become enmeshed in ufology, I think there's definitely something that needs to be aired out with regard to that.
Well, I'm certainly glad that it's basically isolated because I don't hear much of it. I know one thing that people have called me a racist, and my wife's last name is Hernandez, and the only time I ever run across any racist were her family. I mean, I couldn't say the word brown or tan. I had to reshingle my house from white shingles to brown shingles because, and I had to make sure I didn't get a white car because my mother-in-law had plenty to say about all of that. And so, hey, I'm sorry. I mean, no, I'm not a racist. I might post things that are questionable, but I do that, like I said, I do that for stimulating conversation.
Oh, dear. Well, if I were to give you any advice, I might not be doing that in the future.
Yeah.
Just as a thought, with regard to kind of the one world order and that whole mindset, it is curious that when you go to a conference that 99.9% of the people in the audience are white males who are, 50 plus years old. How many people in MUFON, how much diversity is there in MUFON?
That's a good question. I don't have any access to the membership roll, and I have no idea. I just know that when we go to conferences, we're a bunch of gray-headed people like me. So I don't know. Maybe it's because retired people are the only ones that can afford to go to these conferences, or I don't know. I have no answer for that. No idea.
And so I had Barry Littleton on about 3 weeks ago, and he's black and has talked specifically about how difficult it has been for him to try to find acceptance. And he mentioned in the interview, because he's an abductee, he's an experiencer, how he has received death threats because
From
of
who?
his involvement. Well, some of the trolls on the internet, because he's black, they want to see him hung from a tree and different things like that. And I think that's alarming. And on the same front, being a woman, as you know, what I have encountered, being called a whore and different things, and that being acceptable and not being addressed has been very interesting. And to me, if we're going to get a younger generation fired up about this, we have to clean up some of this behavior. And so what specifically does MUFON do to address issues of sexism, sexual harassment, racism? If a complaint came in, what would the process be for that?
Well, it's lucky for everyone here that hears this, because I am the new professional standards administrator. And that's like the guy that does all the investigations on any kind of complaints. So if anyone in your listening audience has a complaint with MUFON, with a field investigator, or whatever, email me with the complaint in a letter, detailed as possible. At my email address right now is DFO, that's Director of Field Operations, at MUFON.com. And I guarantee you I will address it.
And that's got to be a big task for you.
So far it hasn't been. I've only had 2 cases.
Well, I will just, again, go back to what I experienced. And I specifically reached out to Kathleen Martin when everything was happening with me, and a certain person who was head of the spokesperson for MUFON Radio slandered me and things. And I turned to Jan specifically and Roger Marsh for help. And they were both about they took this, they didn't take that seriously at all. And to me, as a woman, to have to go through this victimization and all of this crap, and to reach out to people, anybody, and to kind of be brushed aside, that doesn't make you want to come forward with complaints, with things that intimidate you.
I understand that. But you didn't send the complaint to the right person.
Oh, dear.
In writing.
Well, I'm pretty sure that Jan and Roger got the memo on that one.
What's the first 2 words you just said?
Pretty sure. Oh, they did.
That's right.
And I've got all the email exchanges. So, that's neither here nor there, but I hope that that's changing. And so I want to, again, because these are important topics to address, and I'm grateful that you're here having this conversation. This needs to happen. We've heard over the years that MUFON has reports of missing cases. When I was state director, I would go in, and because I want to learn, I want to look through the CMS and find high-profile cases or cases that are incredibly unique. How do I, as state director, become more educated? And specifically, like with the Chris Bledsoe case, I went in there and found that a case where Richard Lang and James Carrion had spent 6 months and over 100 hours of video interviews, trace evidence. Obviously it was a good enough case that this was on a TV show. And yet when I went into the CMS, there were only 2 paragraphs with regard to the Chris Bledsoe case. So how can that happen, especially when there was trace evidence collected?
That took place when I was not the director of investigations.
And so who was director of investigations at the time?
Kathleen or Marie Malzahn.
And so what has, because the Chris Bledsoe's case has received obviously a lot of attention, what has been done perhaps to maybe get the reports, the investigations back in the CMS so other people could learn?
Well, that's like going, if I try to find that missing information, I would go to, let's just say, for instance, you did a case in Utah that was pretty significant, and you did not upload all the files, and you're no longer in Mufon, and I come to you and I say, Erica, could you please give me those files so I can upload them to the case? What are you going to do?
But according
no buts.
Oh, no, this is
using you for an example. Just using you for an example, because the 2 individuals that have those files are no longer with Mufon and could care less what Mufon thinks, what Mufon asks for. So there you are.
With regard to the Bledsoe case?
Yes.
Yeah, but it was interesting because, Norm has been on the show and he's a field investigator and was one of the first investigators, as Steve McGee was, on the Bledsoe case. And, I reached out to Norm and I just said, hey, Norm, can you tell me why, why there isn't anything in the CMS about it? And Norm was shocked when he got in there to see that all of his work had been deleted. And so he went back in there and put it back in the CMS. So, clearly Marie Malzahn wasn't involved in MUFON at that point in time. This was under Jan Harzan that this was taking place.
Jan Harzan wasn't the executive director then. It was Carrion.
Yeah, this was like a couple years ago, though.
Oh, well, okay. I'm not privy to that. I don't know about that. There's some things going in the CMS that I'm not aware of.
So, and this is something that, you've been amazing to tell me about this, because I think some people don't understand the CMS and how that works. So the case management system, when a report enters, when it goes to MUFON, explain the process.
Okay. The witness goes to it and clicks on a little button up there that says enter a report. So the report format comes up, and there is not a lot of information, but there's a lot of little boxes and things that you can check. And the witness goes through there and checks all of the little boxes that are pertinent to their case, their witness statement. And then you go down to a description. There's one line for a short description that is public. And then there's a larger box for a more in-depth statement that you can put in there. And then as soon as they hit the enter button, it automatically goes to the state director and I believe the chief investigator, I believe. And for a while there, I was getting notice too, till I got tired of getting 30 of them a day, so I changed all of that. But then they have a certain amount of time for the case to be for the witness to be contacted, and 90 days to complete the case, and that's basically it. And the depending on what the case is, the majority of them are Category 1 cases, which is basically what we call a light in the sky. And there's sometimes that we don't even contact the witness on it, but I prefer that they do. And there's also an area there that if the witness is not satisfied with the disposition of the case, they can contact MUFON and say, hey, man, I don't like the way that. I think it's better. I think it's something else. And then it goes to a dispute committee, which I'm part of. And then we relook at the case and reevaluate it to yes, that's the disposition, or no, we think it's this, this, and this. And so it's just like a backup. But that's essentially the way the CMS works.
And so, I've heard before I was involved with MUFON, during, after that there were people involved that could go in and cherry pick cases, and that the state directors in some instances would not even know that these cases existed, because this elite team would go in and then investigate it and not inform the state director.
I've heard this more than once, and more than once from you. And that's one of the things that I really, that's one of the things that I really seriously looked for when I became the director of investigations, because I had access to everything. And I know some of the state directors said, well, these file numbers are not, they're not there. There's out of sequence on this nature. But we have a group of CMS administrators. There's about 5 or 6 of them. Donna Rothenbaum is the one that heads up that little team. There's like 5 or 6 of them. And they see the cases when they come in. And their job is to make sure that in their little short description that they don't put any personal information in that area. And they don't put any kind of links to a website or something or other, because we don't want anybody clicking on these things and getting a virus on their computer. So they get rid of that, get rid of any personal information. And then if it's a duplicate case, which that happens more than once, if it's a duplicate case, they will delete that case. So there's where your missing numbers are coming from. And I had access to this deleted case file. And so far, in all the years that I've done this, I've never seen a number that was missing.
And that's interesting. I know Elaine Douglas, who was a very spicy, powerful. Well, she,
yes, we met.
She specifically, addressed MUFON leadership about missing cases, and Terry Groff, who was the CMS administrator at the time, said that was, not happening. But there were other state directors and people that raised alarms with regard to that.
Well, the state directors do not have access to any deleted files. And that's why they could never find any, because they don't have any access to it. They didn't know that they were deleted, and they didn't know what they looked like when they were deleted. They had no access to it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for clearing that up. And, again, with I want to just ask, Robert Bigelow, when he came in and gave MUFON a considerable amount of money, what did he have access to, and how did MUFON go about protecting the identity of the witnesses, or did they?
We always protect the identity of the witnesses, period. That's one of the main things. And anybody that starts talking about witness names and things like this, they really have a problem with me. And that's why I have a good reputation out here, because, it's a saying. It says, if you don't want Steve on your butt, don't screw up. And that's just simple. That's simple. It's just, you don't want me on your butt. You got to do it the right way, because I'm a big guy on the rules and regulations. And if we have a field investigator out there that's naming witnesses and such, doing that, all of a sudden they find out they're on inactive status and wondering why. So as far as Bigelow goes, you keep in mind that Bigelow pulled the contract, and I'm thinking, in my opinion, is that they weren't getting the information they thought they were going to get, because even to this very day, there's no evidence of anything in the CMS.
And my impression after reading some of the interactions, the contracts between MUFON and Bigelow, is that Bigelow pulled funding because MUFON was inept.
Well, that's a fancy word of saying that we pulled the funding because we weren't getting the information we wanted. I suppose that could be called inept. It's just we didn't get the information we wanted, but hey, guess what? MUFON's inept. So it sounds better if you put the blame on MUFON rather than, well, we weren't finding what we wanted.
Yeah, I know, but it's an interesting thing. I mean, you hear so much about this. This mythology is sprung up with regard to MUFON and Bigelow and all of that, and it would be interesting to hear Robert Bigelow weigh in on that. I'm sure he won't.
No, you don't have time to fool around with this stuff. It's old news.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got a lot of really great questions in chat, and I wanted to let everybody know that I will be asking those. Oh dear, well, we've got to take a break though. We've got 3 minutes, and I know my producer will get, a little anxious with me, but I want to just again thank you, Steve, for coming on here, and obviously I am asking you questions that are interesting and questions that in my opinion, I think need to be addressed, and questions that people have had for a long time.
Sure.
And so this is good. So there never in Mufon's history has there been an elite team, or have there been people that have pulled or cherry picked the best cases?
The answer to that is no.
Okay, and so because I had talked with somebody who was high up in Mufon, who specifically said that there were cases that were that weren't being shown to state directors or field investigators.
You are probably referring to the SAT team.
And we should talk a little bit about the SAT team, because these are different things, and you know what Chuck Maudlin and some of the trace evidence and things like that. Those are things that we should talk about, and I'm excited to talk about them. So thank you. I again want to thank everybody who is in chat room. Bruce Cornett wanted me to tell you, Steve, that he was in Stephenville at the time of the Stephenville sightings, and he just wondered if you knew that he was there. He wanted to say hello. Bruce Cornett, who was with NITS. Yes, so he wanted to give you a little shout out. I am Erica Lukes here on UFO Classified with Steve Hudgeons. We're talking about Mufon missing cases, racism, sexism, you name it. The UFO community is full of lots of interesting twists and turns. I will have Dr. Eric Davis on the show next week, and that is a rare treat. The last show Dr. Davis did was on Coast to Coast with George Knapp. I will be elaborating a little bit on some of the things that Dr. Davis said and much more. Hopefully we can get some clarification on things, and this is going to be a good show. Again, I am always grateful to have people on my show that don't appear on the regular radio show circuit. I think there are people that have a lot of things that we can share and we can learn from, and they are not on the lecture circuit, and they are most often underground. I try to get them on the show. We are going to be right back. We'll catch you on the other side of the break.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes. The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
1 million miles till midnight. A story of timelines, artificial worlds, simulated races, and the galactic imprint, and the destiny of a blue world called Earth. 1 million miles till midnight, written by Solaris Blue Raven, is a journey through the mind's eye which allows the reader to surf a wave of technological and multidimensional intellect, revealing a bridge between conscious design and the truth. A multidimensional bleed-through awakens the world of artificial intelligence to set sail into the frontiers of a vast multiverse, morphing planets and terraforming ascended worlds beyond the linear programs of a fated race. 1 million miles till midnight will awaken, inspire, prepare, and enlighten one to the many multidimensional states of consciousness and worlds we reside in. With every cell and atom, we are this truth and multiverse. 1 million miles till midnight. Written by Solaris Blue Raven. Available now at Amazon.com. Don't wait. Get your copy today.
It's great. I think it's great. It's great.
The all-new KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Great.
Make a note of it.
It's great.
If ever a breed was affectionate to a fault, it's the Golden Retriever. They're people dogs, pure and simple. And the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada needs your help. If you would like to volunteer, foster, adopt, or donate, go to the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada's website at grrsn.org. That's grrsn.org. Or call 598-GOLD. That's 598-GOLD. Gee, it's
Terribly quiet. Awfully quiet.
Do you have an hour to kill? Well, crank up those EVPs, spirit boxes, and walk the haunted halls of the unknown with UK's very own paranormal investigator, David Cook.
You guys ready for this?
The Ghostly Hour, live Sunday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern.
And now, you're mine.
Come hear first-hand accounts of some of the most famous ghost sightings, photos, and videos from around the world. Skeptics, believers, and spirits both good and bad. Welcome to the Ghostly Hour, hosted by David Cook. Live every Sunday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back to the final segment of UFO Classified. You can find me at UFOclassified.com and on Facebook, Twitter. You know, like I was saying, I'll get my Twitter on at some point in time. I'm on Instagram as well. You can follow me on social media. I will be updating you as I really look into the incredible archive that I just acquired. I am grateful. I have probably one of the best collections in the Western United States now, and that collection is available to the public. I am not one of those researchers who is hoarding information and doesn't care about sharing it with people. We're all in this together, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to do that. And again, thank you, Barry Greenwood and Jan Aldrich and Fran Ridge. You are my heroes. I am here tonight with Steve Hudgeons, who is the International Director of Research for Mufon, and we've been talking about some pretty interesting, hard-hitting things, and these are questions that it would be interesting to actually hear Jan Harzan and Roger Marsh address. And Steve, I will say that you're the only person involved at MUFON headquarters that would address the questions. So thank you.
I'm here to please. No, not really. I'll give you my opinion. Of course, all of my opinions are mine. They're not MUFON's, so keep that in mind.
And so, you know, we've seen with MUFON some high-level resignations, as we've talked about, James Clarkson, Hoffman, Robert Powell, which to me that was a significant blow. I really respect Robert Powell, but they, you know, Robert Powell and if maybe I'm wrong, Hoffman resigned because of MUFON's acceptance of the secret space program with Corey Goode, and specifically the MUFON Symposium. What can you tell us about MUFON's allegiance to Corey Goode and the secret space program?
I have no idea. I have not had a discussion with Jan or anybody else about that. The last symposium, when you sit there and look at it, it sort of gives you a pro and a con over the UFO subject. And that's what the entire symposium was over. And a lot of people got upset about that. They didn't want to hear the con. They wanted to hear some of the pro. And if the pro didn't match what they considered was pro, they got upset about it. And there's just too many people getting upset over anything and everything. And we're back to that ego thing again. And so, you know, it was a pro and con, and these people that you're talking about resigning, you have to ask yourself why they really, really resigned. And the best way to figure that one out is to see where they are at the moment. And I'm not going to tell you where they are. You know where they are. And they're trying to establish their own hashtag whatever UFO organization. And they're actually going nowhere fast. And people think that they can get out there. It's like me all of a sudden, hey, I don't like MUFON. I'm going to go out there and start my own UFO organization. And so I put up a Facebook page, and I do all of this. And I put up a couple of things, and all of a sudden, hey, how come people aren't contacting me? It's just, you're not established. And they're going nowhere fast, period. So that's what you have to really look at as the real reason people quit MUFON. And it's because MUFON isn't going the way they want it to go. And I see no problem with the way and the direction that MUFON is going. And people always ask me, hey, you investigate UFOs, huh? I said, well, I would love to, but no, we investigate UFO reports, and that's what we do.
And then so with the fact that, MUFON is a non-for-profit, how transparent is MUFON with regard to where they're spending money? I mean, we know that Jan Harzan has what is it, $70,000 a year income. What funds does MUFON allocate for research?
I have no idea. I've never seen that statement. I've never asked for it. I never wanted it. I'm sure that it's posted somewhere because doesn't IRS require it to be posted somewhere?
I do believe there are guidelines that it is posted or that information is readily available on the website, but MUFON doesn't have anything like that on the website. They used to, but they don't anymore.
I'm sure you could email Marquetta at MUFON.com and ask for a copy of it, and I'm sure they'll direct you to it because I don't really think that since they are a non-for-profit, that they're certainly not going to hide anything. And so as far as how much Jan makes a year, I don't know. There's people thinking I make a lot of money a year too, but I don't. I tell you what, I don't get squat. So well, I just have fun doing what I'm doing.
No, and that's great. And I think like I've said, and I will always say, there are incredible people involved in MUFON. And when I joined MUFON, I was MUFON's biggest cheerleader because I believed in the overall effort. I believed in finding out the truth of the situation and educating the public and creating a safe space for witnesses who've had traumatic experiences. And I know that there are people or chapters that are very good about providing that. And I have a lot of friends in MUFON to this day that I will support individually. I want to go back to the Chris Bledsoe case because he's a friend of mine. And after the 6 months that Richard Lang Carrion spent at his place, and basically, of course, we know the UFOs over Earth, they set up his family. And Chris and his wife, after the show, before the show, said, what support system are you going to give my family? Because we have had this traumatic experience. This experiences continue. And now you just set us up on national TV. How are you going to help our family? And MUFON basically said, we're done. We're done with it. We did the TV show, blah, blah, blah. And so when you have an experiencer or somebody who comes forward who has the bravery to come forward with something like that, how do you assure that you're going to treat that witness with fairness and respect and then offer the support that they need after their sighting?
Well, the way I look at that is if I was a witness. And all of a sudden I go to an organization and I say, hey, man, I've had this traumatic experience and I wanted to talk to you about it and get some help or whatever. The very second that they want to put me on TV, that's a red flag for me. But that's just me. I mean, here I am with a traumatic experience and all of a sudden he wants to broadcast on TV? Really? Do I get a cut of those commercial profits? And so that's a big red flag for me, and I think it was handled could have been handled better.
Yeah, I know after just again dealing with with Chris and the people that investigated the case and things that, I mean, he was truly, his whole family was in shock. And, you know, Mufon came in under the guise that they were there to help the family and to assist them. And they basically, and Chris is the most eager person in the world that wants to share information and educate people. And he believed that he was doing this to further that. And it was very tragic, in my opinion, to see the way that was handled. And so when, again, you know, when people come or report things like this to MUFON, obviously you're not doing UFOs over Earth or things like that, so you're not exploiting witnesses. But what safeguards or support does MUFON offer to people who have been traumatized?
That's a good question, and what is it? There's a section in there about the way the field investigators are supposed to act and correspond with the witnesses and the protection of the witnesses. I don't know. I can't emphasize that as much. I mean, the safeguard of the witness is the main thing. That's the main thing in the entire deal, and so, like I said earlier, you know, people start stepping out of line. They start hearing from me. Of course, they don't hear from me anymore because I'm not in the I'm not the DOI of USA. But the person that is feels the same way I do about the same subject, and it's just a different world right now with as far as rules and regulations are concerned, the way things are handled.
And so where does Kathleen Martin and the Experiencer team, like when a sightings report comes in like this and there's obviously missing time, an abduction or things like that, or trace evidence, like what are the channels or the procedures that take place?
Okay, when we get a case that's basically an abduction case, because you mentioned Kathleen Martin, we have a questionnaire. I tell field investigators all the time. I said, when you have something that's ET related, abduction related, that kind of nature, I said you have them take a questionnaire. And there's a questionnaire somewhere on the website that if an abductee says, "Hey, I've been abducted," well, okay, go answer these questions. And Kathleen is alerted when someone takes this questionnaire, and there's certain questions on there that are good, certain questions on there that are trigger questions, and she can tell by the results of this whether or not it's an actual case. You know, because some people, you know, wake up with a dream and, hey, I did this and I did that, and we run into that a lot. And so she will she will not actually take the case over. Because I got in trouble one day. I was taking all of these abduction cases and sending them over to her, and she didn't like that idea. She said, "No, that's not the way we do this." So if she finds one that's interesting, she will assist the state director on that case, and that's the way it's handled.
And that's good. And that's a big responsibility there. That's I'm sure that she feels overwhelmed, and as a volunteer organization, it is difficult, and I will absolutely say that. And I want to ask you though, because after 50 years and cases like the Bledsoe case where trace evidence has been collected, where does the trace evidence go typically?
Okay, now there's the good question, because we have a strict outline on how to collect evidence, and it has to be strict. I mean, when I try to emphasize this on the state directors and the field investigators, that you have to follow these guidelines, because, hey, look, it's like I tell people all the time. So, look, we have to take this evidence, and we have to you have to do it like this. We have to go to court. This is the way it goes. We have to go to court, and our evidence has to be good enough to satisfy 11 or 12 people over here in this jury that our evidence is good enough that, yes, it is extraterrestrial, or yes, it is odd, or yes, or rather, no, it's not from the planet Earth. And that's hard to do. And your evidence collection has to be in a certain procedure, or it is ineligible, period. we had a lot of packages. Well, I say a lot, more than what we should have had. 5 or 6, 7 or 8, something like that. Packages of evidence that people had sent to Mufon, and hey, look, here's a probe I pulled out of my hand, and I want you to look at it and see what it is. Well, it's a splinter. Well, hell, I got this right here. It's a piece of glass. And and if you have something that's in your hand or in your arm or in your body, it has to be medically removed. You can't move it. You can't take it out. It's ineligible. It's ineligible in court. It's worthless. And I can't emphasize that enough. And that's why we don't have evidence, because it's not following the directions of evidence collection.
So what about Phyllis Buttinger? I mean, she's an incredible investigator, and
she's really good, yes.
And
again, everything she's ever looked at, ever analyzed is earthbound. I mean, it's nothing extraordinary. I mean, she doesn't have any kind of element that's not of the earth. I mean, so that's nothing. It's basically nothing.
Where does Mufon publish any of this information?
Anything we publish is in the journal. Anything,
and that's not available to the public.
No, not without a subscription.
So in theory, educating humanity means educating people that pay.
Well, without that, where would Mufon be?
Well, it certainly wouldn't be making a $70,000 salary for the.
Yeah, you said that. I didn't. I don't.
Well, it's on the tax returns, and
okay. I'm sure he gets a retirement from where he worked, so you have to take that into account too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So
I've never looked at his tax return. Don't want to look at it.
But I mean, those are important things that I think people involved in any organization, specifically a non-for-profit, should be looking at. Where if this is an organization that is touting the benefit of mankind or educating humanity, how much money are they allocating for research? And then where is the rest of the money going?
I don't know. And as far as
get on that, Steve.
Well, I've heard a lot of times, well, Mufon is hiding this and hiding that and the black hole and all that. Hey, look, my email is dfo@mufon.com. You guys have a question? Ask me, and I guarantee you I will try to answer it for you. I mean, there's nobody hiding anything. There's actually nothing to hide. We talked a while ago about the SAT team.
Yes.
The SAT team has been set up to take cases that come in to headquarters. They'll call in headquarters. Hey, I got this UFO sighting. Is this, and this? Well, if it's real spectacular or it sounds pretty interesting, especially if it's like military or something like that, we'll turn it over to the SAT team, and they will do an extensive research on it and do the background check on the DD Form 214s like you were referring to earlier. And all of those cases are then put into the CMS and the monthly journal. So there's nothing hidden anywhere. I make sure of that.
And so where, with, like the Bledsoe case, where did the trace evidence go? I mean, in what role does Chuck Martin
I never saw any trace evidence, and I guarantee you, I've told these guys thousands of times, well, maybe 2 or 3, that if you have trace evidence, I am to be notified immediately. Now, ask me how many times I've been notified.
Well, then somebody's pulling a fast one on you, Steve, and you better get your game on. So I want to ask you, because we're getting ready to wrap up the show, but Mufon acquired the Leonard Stringfield files.
Yes.
And there's been talk for a few years that those files would be digitized and made available to the public, which has not happened. And so what does working on that mean?
That means that Mufon is under a strict budget since there's only 3,000 members. And why, again, I ask for people, hey, don't bitch about Mufon. Go join it. If you want to complain about something, go join it and then try to make a difference.
But people joined it and
what?
were
For 1
vested.
year?
No, I mean, you look at people that have spent their whole lives being involved in this organization, and they tried to make change, and then they were told by people like Terry Groff that, basically nobody cares about your opinion. even though you pay to be a part of the organization, you pay to collect data for this organization. Your opinion means nothing.
Again, they didn't talk to the right person. Terry Groff, CMS administrator. He makes no decisions on anything.
Well,
besides that, he's inactive right now.
Oh, it's probably good. So you think? So you will respond to questions that
yes.
people have, and I will say you've done that tonight. You've been on the show and you've answered questions, and I want to thank you for that. So Len Stringfield, the files will be out there and available in May 2050.
You're trying to pin me down, and I can't give you an answer because I'm not working on those files. I know that the object is to put these things in a digital format, and I can tell you Mufon works on a slow, steady, I don't know if you want to call it a walk or trot. I don't know. It's slow. And a good example would be we're trying to reformat the CMS database, right? We're trying to get it outfitted and workable so someone can pick up their cell phone and enter a report. And that is, it takes a lot of programming to do that. And the programming that they do, the programming format, I forget I think it's Perl. I forget. Not that many people know how to do it. Terry Groff knows. There's another guy that knows, and there's another guy that was a state director that recently passed away.
Right, Craig Lang, one of my dear friends. Yes,
they knew how to do that, and all of a sudden now we're down to one person, and that person has a regular job. So it takes a while to do things, and it took me a long time to figure that one out because I get frustrated very easily because I can't get things done fast enough. And it took me a while to figure it out. So, okay. It takes a while to get this thing going. And most of the people here, 99% of the people in Mufon are volunteers. They don't get paid. So when working with volunteers, you're working with volunteers. So, hey.
And to me, like when you have so many incredible people who are paying to be involved in an organization,
yes.
paying to collect data, the people who volunteer deserve to be respected and appreciated. And I think that if the organization would flow so much better and be so much more respected if the people in each of these chapters felt like they were being heard and felt like their opinions mattered. But if you go to the Elaine Douglas files and look at the exchanges between Terry Groff and all of these things, or some of the other exchanges that are available online, you can definitely clearly see that there's not a lot of respect for the volunteers of the organization, and that's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, but you have to take into account what are they asking for, what are the changes that they're looking for, and there was one change that I was strictly against, and that was they wanted the membership at large to elect the executive director, and I'm totally against that. No. We don't do that. That's not the way it's established. That's not the way it's started out. No, we're not doing that. And, of course, I didn't have a vote on it, but I was against that. And that's just something that, no, you don't want to do that.
So where does MUFON, what does MUFON feel they can add to this topic?
Which topic?
Well, I guess UFOs, disclosure, research.
Well, we're maintaining the course, and basically all we can do is investigate UFO reports. That's all we can investigate.
And will this information be available to the public? And does MUFON expect in the next 50 years to produce more than 5 white papers?
Well, you'll have to ask Roger Marsh about that, because I don't have any control over that. But if anybody has any kind of question about what's in the database, again, I'm telling you, they're asking the wrong person. I have access to the database. You got a question? Ask me.
So if okay, and I'll ask you, can you get access to the Chris Bledsoe case? And if the files have been deleted, isn't that still on the server somewhere?
I have no access to get to the server.
Okay.
But I can look up Chris Bledsoe's name. I can do a search, and whatever files are there, they'll pull up, and I can see what kind of files are uploaded. Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, that would be good.
Is that a request?
Yeah, that is a request.
Okay, send me an email.
Okay, I will send you an email. And again, and I mean, again, so people, you've got Steve's information. Send him questions, and I will say, Steve, you are one of the rare people that is actually brave enough to come on the show. I don't think Jan or Roger or Chase or any of these people involved would do that. So hats off.
Well, I'm sure they would if you asked them.
Oh, well, okay. Then maybe in the next couple of weeks we can have a little panel with Jan, Chase, and Ray. Not Ray.
Well, now in the next few weeks we got the symposium coming up.
And then so who's featured? Who's speaking?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me that. If I mentioned, I don't know. I have no idea.
Come on now, you got to know.
I'm not going this year, so I don't know who the speakers are. I never participate in that anyway. I'm usually out in the hallway answering questions and talking to people.
Oh, thank you for joining me. I'm Erica Lukes. I was here with Steve Hudgeons. You can find me at UFOclassified.com. Join me next week for Dr. Eric Davis, and stick around for a great night on KCOR. I will catch you next week.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcast